All right. Time is a wasting.
Well, hopefully they don't think, like, people listening don't think you're Rockwell.
Yeah.
All right, folks, we're live. We've been trying to get the guys in this morning on a three-way Skype video, but it's flat out, for a better word, kicked our ass. So we're going to go old school. We've got a great lineup for you today for the New Media Show. We've been off a month because of CES, and McGear was in Vegas, and but we're back. Rob, welcome back after the break. How you been?
Doing great. I've had a little bit of a cold, but other than that, lots of things happening. Staying busy, and I know you were staying busy over the last 30 days. I know this is the longest break I think we've had. Not doing this show, so yeah, it's good to be back.
Yeah, we're expected to be up and live last week, but FedEx didn't deliver, so I got my shipping for free, and with one week delay on getting back on track, but. We've got a great lineup this morning, folks, and we're lucky enough to have Ice-T on this morning. Good morning, Ice-T. Welcome to the New Media Show.
Y'all can see me?
We can't see you, but we can hear you. So, sadly...
How come I'm the only one you can't see?
Well, actually...
No, we can't see anybody.
Yeah, we can't see anybody. We see three blocks, and I think you guys can see each other, but we can't see each other here. So,
all right, can you see me, Mickey?
No, not at all.
How about you, Alex?
I can't see you.
Guys, you're just on the radio. You're just doing a podcast now. There's no video.
All right, whatever. I see y'all, and I'm good. What's happening?
So. We were excited when we heard that you were kicking off a podcast. And, of course, I think you just released episode 2 here either yesterday or the day before. But
like 3 days ago.
Yeah, what we've got listening to this show is a whole bunch of folks that create podcasts. And this is really – and also does stuff on YouTube. And really the audience is all about new media creators. So I'm sure the new media community is excited to see you on board. What made you jump on board the podcasting space?
I mean, people have had me on their podcast before. I've done Adam Carolla's podcast. Mickey, don't be smoking all on the damn. You got your male health awareness shirt on, and you're trying to smoke crack on.
I thought you couldn't see us. I thought you couldn't see us.
I see you. You got a crack habit. But anyway, on Adam Carolla, people have been trying to get me on Joe Rogan's. And then what happened was Alex got at Mickey, and they brought the idea to me, and it just turns out to be something really fun. I mean, through my music and stuff, people have always wanted to get me uncut and uncensored. And it's very difficult because when you're on regular radio, there's limitations. When you're on satellite radio, if people aren't tuned in, they miss it.
Right.
But with a podcast, it kind of sits in a pod and people can wait and see it when they want to. They're like miniature time capsules. And we've been having a great time and getting great response.
When Rob told me that he got you guys booked, and thank you for taking time out of your schedule for being on today. I know that you're busy.
Yeah. Today's my do nothing day, though. This is a good day for this.
We were really excited to talk to your team, and of course we got both Alex and Mick on, and we want to talk about your guys' process and what your plan is, your business model, or if you're just making it up as you go on. But Alex and Mick,
we got Ice-T in the building. We don't make anything up with Ice-T.
It's all strategically planned, right, guys? Yeah.
Well, no, I think it's basically based off of my Twitter feed. I've been on Twitter for a few years, and during the course of the day, I'll talk about games, I'll talk about politics, I'll make a couple of jokes. I talk about SVU. We talk philosophy. We talk about a lot of things. And when it was time to do this, I asked the people on Twitter, what did they think? And they said, yeah, just keep mixing it up. Don't stick on one topic. Mix it up. And that's what we've done. We've divided our podcast into segments, and I think that's what keeps it fresh.
Yeah.
So is the segments just going to vary week to week, or are you guys going to be set to a certain basically certain layout, or?
Yeah, they kind of vary. Like the first one, we didn't do a music segment. The second, we did do a music segment. We did a public service announcement last week to Justin Bieber, which obviously he didn't listen to, or he wouldn't have went to jail. So it's kind of like I try to pick up ideas during we're doing 2 of them a month. We try to pick up ideas, but we try to keep it fun, entertaining, and not negative. You know, I don't like the radio people and the people that just go out and just talk bad about everything. That's not entertainment to me.
You know, I'm sure you get pitched, 50 ideas a week. What made these guys' pitch stick out to you?
It's a natural. Like I'm saying, somebody like myself whose career has been being outspoken and saying things raw, to get a format that allows you to be absolutely raw is rare. It's really rare.
And being able to say what you want uncensored without restriction, it's got to be, it's like being on stage, right? You can just...
Absolutely. And the thing of it is with me, I do so many different things. People get different perceptions of me. You know, if you watch me on SVU, you think I'm a cop. I ain't no fucking cop. I can't arrest nobody, you know? So it's like I'm an actress. So it's kind of like an interview that I can control to let you get all the different facets of myself. And then having Mickey there, Mickey, me and him been friends for years and years and years. So you get that banter back and forth. It's just fun. Mm-hmm. It's just fun. It's really a fun process. And I just can't wait to watch the podcast build and get more and more, subscribers.
It's got to be cool, too, that you got something you can control where someone's not trying to reach their hand in your pocket and take $100 bills out, too, isn't it?
Well, we have sponsors, and, a few of the people that listen to the podcast, they go, oh, well, yeah, I don't like the commercials. I'm like, well, call up your favorite TV show and tell them to take the commercials out. Right. Somebody got to pay the bills, and this way we could put it out free. And, I like that. I like the thought that people get to hear it for free, and we're not asking someone to go into their pocket. We actually have set the you guys can't see, but we just set up 3 microphones on my dining room table, and we just plug a computer in there and we go. It's just that simple.
It's interesting. Go ahead,
but
guys.
At the same time, too, I think it's really important to note that the show is very structured. We're not going, ICE isn't going in there and rambling, and just, I feel like there are a lot of podcasts out there, which is, I'm a celebrity and I have followers and it doesn't really matter what I say and I'm just going to ramble because I love myself, and I love everything I say. And this isn't that kind of show. This isn't that kind of bullshit. ICE is really delivering everything to the table, and he has all these different sides of himself, whether it's like comedic side, whether he's talking about philosophy and giving some great advice, and just really bringing it.
I get bored easily too. So, what we do is we do the show. The show's about an hour long. We send Alex about an hour and a half worth of material, and he edits it down and keeps it fast moving and funny. And when it's supposed to be funny, it's funny. When it's supposed to be serious, it's serious, but it has to be entertaining. And I think due to the fact I am an entertainer first, I'm going to be the hardest critic. So I listen to the podcast. I'm like, yeah, that's dope. Put it out.
Yeah, I think that was the big thing that was really really kind of jumped out at me as I was listening to your first show was the fact that, you guys pulled together 2 things that are really important to a successful show, and that's structure. And you had sponsors, which means that you're already starting the process of making money from what you were doing. And I think that was really impressive. It's very unusual to see a new show launch with those kind of things already in place. And I really, really commend you guys for actually pulling that off.
One thing that
Alex pulled that off. It's funny though, Alex. Did you know that one of the people that sponsored this audiobooks?
Audible.
Yeah, Audible. Yeah.
I actually this week, since this thing is called Geek Something, I had to do an audio book. I read Dungeons and Dragons. I'm going to talk about this on the next podcast. The hardest thing in the history of the world to read. The guy asked me, he said, ICE, is this hard? I said, dude, this is the hardest thing I've ever done. It took me 3.5 hours to read 20 pages because it's all these strange places and strange names and the Northwest, and then the people talk backwards like Yoda. My God. So,
You know,
book. The thing of it is, when you read it naturally, you don't pronunciate the words because you read it in your head.
Mm-hmm.
To read it out loud, that shit is hard, son. I was seriously having a breakdown, but you know, sponsors are good and we're happy, and of course you want to make a few dollars. I always say money makes you work when you rather not.
that's true.
Yeah.
And if you think about it, really,
I ain't doing it. Oh yeah, I'm getting paid, and then you do it. You know, you can't do everything just when you want.
Right.
And if you think about it, really, there's no one on ICE's level who's doing this. You know, like sponsors jumped at this right away. You know, it wasn't really like something that was a hard pitch. You know.
And what's interesting, guys, is I wear two hats. I have a company that works with media creators, and I was talking with a buyer, an advertising, new media, works a folk at a person at agency, excuse me, and we're talking about what's going on, and I said, yeah, I'm interviewing Ice-T's team on Saturday. She says, oh man, she says, stop. She says, I got advertising for him, so.
Well,
So,
one thing is the advertisers got to know what they're getting in for, because this is a pretty hardcore, like I say, get a helmet type podcast. So we'll pick out certain advertisers and sponsors will roll with it. Like, it's funny because they send me the text to read, and they get the vibe. They understand that we're going to go about this hard and aggressive and fun. Might be a little profanity in there, but it's all in good fun. I mean, you can listen to my podcast. I'm not attacking anybody or being negative toward anything. We're just trying to be fair.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Ice-T's ad reads too are the best. They are. Like prior to starting Paragon, I worked at the Midroll, which is the largest podcast ad sales platform with Podcast One, and I was listening to these ad reads all day long, and nobody's touching Ice. And advertisers know that. Advertisers are listening to Ice's reads, and they're saying, man, these are the best. And it's showing, too. People are responding to these ads. And it's
That's
really
good.
about integrating them, making them fun, and not being ashamed about doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, I mean, it's like, this is how it goes. If you support me, I have to support you. And the fact that they're coming in and they're allowing my listeners to get this for free, it's a trade-off. I wouldn't want to do a podcast that made you pay. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. That's overvaluing myself. I'm not into that.
I think what's going to happen too, guys, is the more attention you pay to the reads and do the reads correctly, and make it fun and not not some stupid script. I think what's going to end up happening is and when the ROI rolls in from that spot, the advertisers are going to start to wake up a little bit. And really, I know a couple of key people that are, have a lot of sponsors, and sometimes I hear their reads and I just cringe because it's, it's kind of like,
well, it's boring.
They don't
have
their heart into it, and it's,
what I do is I do the drops away from the podcast. Another thing is, you're dealing with a rapper. We're built-in promotional machines.
Right.
If you ever listen to a rapper talk, you go, what's the weather like? It's a beautiful day to buy my album. It's like, we'll promote whatever, hey, did you hear about the war? Yeah, it's hot, but it ain't hot as my new record. We're promotional monsters, because with hip-hop, we never got commercials.
Right.
We never get television commercials. We never got those radio drops. So we learned how to promote for ourselves in the midst of our interviews. It's just part of, the nature of the beast. But what I do with these commercials is I do them separate from the podcast. I'll do the podcast, and then I'll go into my little, laptop studio, and I concentrate and knock those out, and then we send them in, and we paste them into the show. So that way I'm not on the spot doing them. I can give them the respect they deserve.
That's smart.
And also it's really just about respect. You know, like I feel like if you look at the typical podcaster right now, they're alt comedian white guys or, you know, people in the tech industry. And a lot of people in those industries, you know, are ashamed of commercialism, you know? And realistically, it's like, come on, bro. Who's paying for you to do this right now?
Yeah.
Your commercials. Nothing else matters. It's all a vehicle for the commercial from a financial point of view. Now, it's important to make the show great from an artistic point of view, but this is why you're getting paid.
Come on. I mean, this is just the way television has been. This is how radio is. This is just part of the business. I mean, I just been in the business. I'm a street guy, you know what I'm saying? So if you give me $1, I'm your friend. Give me $10, you my motherfucking man. Give me $100, shoot a motherfucker for you. You know? So if you paying me, you know, it's okay. I don't have a problem. Now, where would I draw the barrier? Well, I wouldn't promote anything that I'm not totally with. You know what I'm saying? We're not going that far. I mean, so far we promoted audio books. We promoted a health box, healthy food.
Nature
you know,
box.
And also a way you can make websites, Squarespace, for practically free. And like 10 of my friends have already used it to make their own websites. So Alex is bringing good sponsors in too. We're not going to promote nothing that I disagree with. So we do have our own, you know, thing we think about, you know.
Yeah,
it's necessary though. It's just part of the game. You got to understand that.
Yeah,
and we also
what's really great about you know, go ahead.
One thing I could say, if you got a problem with the ads, you can TiVo through them shits. Really, you can TiVo through it. So I mean, shut up and just, you know, it's part of the game. Stop tripping. Get over it.
And I think you're first out of the gate here. You've got ads in the content, so the audience will get used to it. And guess what? You're bringing them great content. They download it for free. So, you know, you'll have a few naysayers, but the majority of people completely understand.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah,
and you know what? I've honestly been getting a lot of results from people saying thank you for the ad because they went there and it was a good product. People tell me, Ice, I got those books. I got your book. I got the free book. You know, so and every ad we're doing, they're actually getting some type of a discount or a bonus too.
Yep.
So, you know, hey. It's what it is.
Yeah, and certainly what's really great about what you guys are doing, I think, is that the show that you're producing would never be a show that would be on broadcast radio because it just wouldn't be there. But yet, it has the ability to reach the audience that wants that kind of content, right? And so, you know, I think what the opportunity for you guys and many others down in Los Angeles and across the country that are really good at talking and having a conversation with their audiences, they can build an audience for themselves. They don't have to be on the radio anymore.
Well, you know, I mean, I put it like this. It's like people like Howard Stern. You know, Howard Stern is very irreverent. You know, he has his own way of seeing things. But there's not that many people out there, especially from, you know, my demo, that are doing that kind of thing. So if anything, call Ice-T the new Black Power hip-hop Howard Stern. I'm talking shit, and you love it.
There you go.
And you know, one thing we found out when we did this was like, well, you got to be careful using music. So we're only using our own music that we own. Good. And it's an hour is really easy if you break it up into topics. There's so much stuff to talk about every week. And you know, like I say, my whole thing is just stay away from that normal gossipy bullshit that people that don't have anything to talk about. That's just so easy. It's just so easy to go that route, and we're not ever going to go that route. We're going to always keep it entertaining without being negative. That's corny to me.
Yeah.
You know, and I think what's going to happen with you guys is, you know, if the show continues, and which it's going to grow and it's going to have a bigger audience and you're going to reach more people, ultimately it could end up in more opportunities. And at the same time, what I think we'll see is, you know, a lot of people are going to come out there and say, well, look what Ice-T is doing. Let me look at this a little closer.
Yep.
And we might actually start to see better content coming out of, a variety of celebrities, or even people that are just mainstream that are looking to do a show too, So when you get copied, that's the ultimate
form of flattery, right? Yeah.
I don't really care. We always just like to be first. One of the main things when Alex and Mick came at me, they said nobody else is really doing it. I know my buddy from Cypress Hill, Be Real, he's been doing something similar, but it's very few.
It's ghetto as shit. Like, I love Cypress Hill, but it's literally like him on a YouTube thing. He's not even on iTunes.
Right.
It's but I do think it's important that we elevate the content of podcasting, and I think ICE is really stepping it up. I listen to podcasts all day. I love this shit. I breathe this shit. And ICE is really, I think, one of the strongest ones from an entertainer.
And you know what, Alex? The real funny thing about this is that it's not hard for me because, when I first started acting, I got on the set and the line said, "Open the door," and I said, "Open the door." And the director's like, "Whoa, that's incredible. Oh, my God. Jesus Christ." I was like, what? Oh, I could do this forever. So when I really did this podcast, I just did it just raw. Fuck it. If it hits, it hits. And people love it. So I'm like, oh, my God, this is beautiful. Because there is no censoring. It is just icy, absolutely raw. No one's coming to me saying, don't say this. Be careful of that. Don't do. I'm a grown ass man. I know what not to say. I'm not going to do nothing dumb. It's a
people
beautiful
want
thing.
What's real.
It's something that's really easy to do.
Yeah, and people want to hear what's real, not what's fabricated, and that's what you're bringing to the table. You're bringing together some really raw and real conversation, and that's what people want to hear. That's what people like to connect with. So I think that's smart.
And with the Final Level podcast, when we do guests, we're not going to be doing interviews. We don't do interviews. We're going to sit around and chop it up just like we're talking on a park bench. So it's going to be the same element of conversation with the guests that we have on. We're not going to ask them what you done lately, what you doing now, because that's radio interview. This podcast for Final Level is about sitting around and chopping it up. And that's what we're going to do with all guests that appears on Final Level podcast.
Yeah, like the other day when Smooth the Hustler came on, he just happened to show up because he was trying to talk to me about some comic book shit that we're doing. So he showed up, and we sit your ass down. You're on we keep saying the radio, but you on the podcast, and we let him chime in through the whole show. And he had a great story which happened to pop up, and I think when it's conversational, it's much better.
Yeah, I agree. And, it's even, I've taken that philosophy with, I do a tech show twice a week and then this show, the New Media Show, once a week. And even with my tech show, kind of hard to talk fireside when it's a tech show. But that's what I try to do. I just try to have a conversation. And I think that's, that's a big difference between some shows are just spouting off stuff and then shows that are actually getting personal. When you do that, too, your audience is going to be like, man, he's talking to me. Because they're gonna feel like they're around the table with you, even though they're not, but they are.
Well, we're looking forward to stuff because we do have a new record coming out this year, so we'll be able to leak it first on the podcast. There are things that are going on behind the scenes with me and my wife. We're doing a new TV show. There's so much information that we can leak out, and by me being on the inside of a lot of things, from music to TV to different film projects. It's a lot of conversation that can go out, and it's fun. And then we found a way to take phone calls on a podcast. Alex found that, and that really adds a whole nother dimension too.
Well, that's cool. So you have a segment where you actually let people dial in and ask questions. Then,
yeah, it's some kind of program where what I do on Twitter is I say dial this number right now to be on the podcast, and they'll dial, and then we can take the calls while we're recording and save them and then pick, a few to put on the show. So it's not live, but it feels live.
Right. Well, that's smart. You got a big enough Twitter following that you can get that instant reaction. So you guys can pull those people in no matter when you record the show. That's really smart.
Yeah, but I got like on Twitter now, I got about 460,000, and my wife is over 1 million. So just from those 2 pages, we can just bump in and hit a gang of people real quick.
So, Alex, what's the...
The only reason Coco has 1 million is because she looks better in a swimsuit. That's the only
So,
Alex, she has 4 million Facebook fans, Ice. That's crazy.
Wow.
Like I said, pussy will sell when cotton and corn won't, man.
That's true. It's true.
Right,
so what kind of numbers if you guys can say, what kind of numbers did you guys do on your first 2 episodes? Did it explode right out of the park, or are you happy where you're at?
We don't want to talk about numbers publicly on the podcast, but we ranked #1 on gaming. We got as high as 25 on the overall. So clearly this is getting a good response.
That's good.
And it's growing. And realistically, as I said, he's the first rapper to do this, really, the first major hip-hop artist. Really, he's the first prominent African-American to do this, too. I mean, you have Neil deGrasse Tyson, but, we're not going to count that. I love Neil deGrasse Tyson. But, so ICE is really opening a lot of doors here. And this is an incredibly new thing. And,
but you know what? Can I say that the response makes me want to do it more. If I had done it and I got a negative response, I can't say that I'd be excited about it. But when you do something and you get that overall response, I mean, I didn't get one negative reply. One guy said he didn't like the sound of my voice, but whatever. But other than that, not any, 0. And that's rare. You usually get haters. But it just made me say, wow, this is the right thing to do. So we're full speed ahead. Actually, we're going to do another one tomorrow. We're going to record another one tomorrow just because we have to take advantage of when I have free time. And it's fun. It's something that's fun to do. So, you hear that in the cast.
Go ahead, Rob.
So how long have you guys been thinking about this show and planning to do it? I mean, so has it been, a couple months, or have you guys been thinking about doing it for a long time now and just hadn't pulled the trigger?
I didn't know how to do one. I know that people had them. I didn't understand anything about them. Like I said, I just went to Adam Carolla's, who's is huge. He actually films his.
Yep. And
he's been a friend of mine since, back with Dr. Drew, on Loveline. I've been knowing Adam for years. And Mickey came at me, said, I met this guy named Alex. He wants you to do a podcast. I did like I usually do. I said, I can't think about that right now. Let's talk about it in a little while. Probably took him about a month to get me to really focus in on the idea. And then within a month, we had done it. The problem is getting my attention. That's just because I'm just doing a lot.
One of the folks in the chat room said, "Can you do a regular schedule for your or will you do a regular schedule for your podcast, or will your taping of the show make that, or the taping of the CBU make it difficult?"
We do a regular schedule of the podcast. Tell that person in the chat room to listen in.
Yeah, I don't think he has. Yeah.
Yeah, the podcast goes out every 2 weeks on Tuesday.
So the follow-up to that was, is the SVU taping going to affect that at all, or are you just going to work it in?
Now, we do the podcast on the weekends, and the podcast will air every Tuesday, every second Tuesday in the month.
I think that's smart, being on a consistent schedule. You guys got it. You don't have to take any advice from anybody. I think you're going to do fantastic, for sure.
No, we need advice. Trust me. That's how you move forward. Take it.
Sure.
Anybody got some advice, I'll take it.
So would you guys do any video, you think, at some point?
You know what I'll do? I'll tell Alex, I'll say, okay, once we get this many subscriptions, then we'll go to video. Like, we'll keep it like it is now. And then when we cross our particular whatever number we want to cross, then we'll do that. Bam. And I don't know all. It's just so easy to do it the way it is. I think that part of the mystery of radio and podcasts is not seeing the people. Sometimes when you see people, it distracts you from what they're saying. So,
yeah, that's true.
And what your
I feel like my take on it is just really that I don't think the video adds any element except that it's easier to get hits on YouTube than it is on iTunes. That's it.
Yeah.
I think what you guys will find is that you'll make 90% of your money from the audio, and the video will be just a thing that you do. You know, the video is expensive to deliver, but you know, people can listen anywhere. They can listen on on the treadmill or in the car or in the bus or wherever. They can listen any place. It's not as easy to watch any place.
You know what? And thing of it is I'm on television. People know what I look like, so I'm not somebody that really is ego based. Like I need to be seen on this one. So it's cool. We're not trying to change anything as it is now. We're just gonna keep it like it is until we get our numbers to where we totally want them to be.
So do you think there's a model then in bringing in more, having more celebrities do their own shows? You guys looking at that at all, or is that?
That's not my business. That would be Alex's business. Me, I'm just, just gonna do the Ice-T and Mick Benzo show. I don't know. I know I have enough friends to stop by to sprinkle my show, but I'm quite sure. I mean, it's all, let's be honest, it's all about money. If people start to think I'm making some money, they're going to do it.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
And the kicker is really, I think, delivering good shows. People talk about like, hey, bring celebrities into podcasting all the time. And yeah, is there a value to that? Yeah. Would we be able to have the start we did if Ice didn't have the fan base? No. But at the same time, Ice earned that fan base through 30 years of solid work with everything he's done. You know? And I think the real kicker in podcasting is not necessarily just getting celebrities to do podcasts. It's getting people to do good podcasts. Because I think all of us know that when you go on iTunes, 99% of it is crap.
Yeah.
And it's easy to just go and sign some Hollywood housewife and be like, hey, have a podcast. But if you're not going to produce it, you're not going to do a good job. Who cares?
Right.
And I think there are people out there who have that opinion. Then, you get all the celebrities you can, and whatever hits, and what doesn't. And that's fine. But then you're going to see that brand doesn't mean anything and that it's mostly crap. And the kicker you're going to see really in the upcoming months, is YouTubers coming into this.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a huge problem for all of us who care about the medium and care about quality, and I have the utmost respect for most of these YouTubers and their business models. I think doing a DIY and getting to a place where you get 1 billion hits just off of posting from your living room, with a handy cam every single day for years, there's a lot of respect to be gotten from that. Not anybody can do that. But at the same time, when you look at the content that comes out of that, there's nothing original. They're not saying anything, and I think it just dilutes everything.
Well, with me, Alex, on this show, I mean, this next show to me is the most important because, like I say, the first time could be luck. Second time could be people trying to see what the luck was. But the third time, that really means whether you've really done something. Like, like Frank Sinatra said, if you can do it 3 times, it's not luck. So I'm more about down the road and having people be able to listen to it for 4 hours. You know what I'm saying? And say, wow, that was a great 4 hours of podcast, and like listen to them back to back to back and still not get bored. So it's definitely a challenge for me, but it's a fun challenge. And, of course people are going to try to copy it, but I've always come from the work model, quality first. If I make a good record, I got to make a good record. No matter how much I promote it, the record sucks, it's going to die in the water really quick. But if I make a good record, it'll have legs and it'll stay. And you can't beat word of mouth. So we didn't do any big promotion for this. We didn't have any money behind it. There's no ads or anything. We just put it out there and it's going. And that's a pat on the back to everybody involved. Mickey, Alex, and me. We got something. So I called Mickey today. I said, let's do this tomorrow. I got an idea. I got a little idea. We'll sit down. We'll write down a couple of notes about things we might want to talk about, and then we just let it go. And people like it, and that's beautiful.
How did you guys hear about the Ice-T Final Level podcast? How did you hear about it?
Well, Rob turned me on to it to begin with.
See, word of mouth, just as Ice-T said. No advertisement. Someone told you, now you're going to tell somebody else, and they're going to say, wow, it is an incredible piece of artwork, because that's what it is. all this to us is art of rap.
So, artwork? The second thing I did, guys, is I Googled it, and I found the website, and then I saw a piece that was over on Hollywood Reporter. I read that.
What?
So,
you made the Hollywood Reporter?
Yeah, you were on Hollywood Reporter, yeah.
I mean, I did put out a press release, bro.
So it's
Hey, look, dog, I don't know, though. I know the kind of ads where they ask for me to sign a check. You dig? So I didn't go ads.
Yeah, that's a free ad, guys. So,
Yeah,
hey, I wanted to...
wonderful.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask a follow-up question about your syndication and distribution strategy. I mean, obviously, word of mouth is a big part of podcasting. There's no question about that. And as platforms and networks hear about your show, what has been the reaction that you've seen? And what's your kind of distribution strategy? Are you guys trying to get on every podcast-related streaming radio platform that you can get on, or are you guys holding it back? Just
Absolutely.
curious.
But I mean,
Alex, let's answer that.
At the end of the day, though, I mean, you go look at anyone's numbers, and if someone has 90% of their numbers from iTunes, that's distributed. We have 50% coming from the app, and I think 20% coming from actual iTunes, not mobile. This is out there, and I'm really surprised how many people are just downloading this from the website and everywhere else, because a vast majority of our listeners aren't people that have listened to podcasts before. We're not going in and taking in Comedy Bang Bang or Marin's audience yet. So realistically, I think
Alex, what's Stitcher? What is that? Do we get? No,
we're on Stitcher too. Stitcher is basically a podcast app. It's kind of like iTunes essentially, except a little bit cleaner. But I mean, iTunes is great. I love the iTunes app, and Stitcher's just a little bit fancier and has more bugs and whistles on the app side. That's basically what it is.
Hey,
do we get credit for that?
Do we get credit? What do you mean?
Like the numbers. Do we get numbers for that when they listen to it on there?
Yeah, we get numbers from everything.
Okay.
Basically, yeah. So realistically, I think that when it comes to distribution with podcasts, realistically, all of it comes from iTunes. You have a little Stitcher here and there. You have people coming to the website, but I think that most people in this industry focus on iTunes.
Yeah, there's about, I think we're tracking about 150 different platforms that are actually consuming podcasts, and then I think iTunes takes about 65% of it, maybe 70%. The other 30 is all the other platforms.
Yeah, so if you guys are seeing 90% of your distribution on iTunes,
no, we're not. We're seeing 70. We're seeing 70, but I'm saying that when you look at Earwolf, it's about 90. When you look at places like Smodcast, it's like 95. You know what I'm saying? So most places are just so vastly iTunes focused. That's where people know about podcasts. That's the first thing that people think about with podcasts is iTunes. I feel like other places matter, and it's good to be out there, and it's good that people can get you in any single way that they want you, since that's what podcasts are about. But realistically, when you look at it, and you look at the numbers from everybody in the top players in the game, it's iTunes. It's all iTunes. Yeah, but if you are getting that high, I mean, even like in the 80 to 90% of your downloads just from iTunes, that means that your syndication strategy is probably not broad enough. So it's just our if you look at Earwolf, I'm talking about Earwolf, I'm talking about Smodcast, I'm talking about all the major players in the game. That's what their numbers
understand. Sure.
So I don't think it's a question of broad enough. Those people are clearly getting numbers. Those people are clearly the people who are setting the trends in the game. But I think it's in podcasting as a whole. And if people want other strategies, and where are these fans getting the podcast from is what matters.
Alex, I encourage you guys to...
I think we'll embed ourselves more and more. I mean, we only done 2.
Right.
So, you know, I think 6 months from now, when we got 12 of them out there, or 14 of them out there, you know, then it'll be a different story. By then, you know, we'll even probably pick up some haters by then.
I doubt it.
Alex, what I'd encourage you guys to do is, you know, if you want to run up on our stats, we can get you guys set up with a stats account. ESPN's running our stats service, and we can provide you pretty incredible insight if you guys are looking for some heavily detailed data on the insights of the consumption. We can talk about that offline.
Yeah.
We always love more stats, and you know, we're using Libsyn for this, and I love Libsyn working with Rob, and you know, they've provided us with great stats as well. And you know, I just met with James from iTunes the other day, and they're doing a whole bunch of other new things with iTunes that are going to be great. So I mean, I think that's one of the big kickers about podcasts is we have the abilities to get great stats that no other medium really has, you know? And it's something that we really have to continually push, you know, as a medium.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the key to this podcast, though, that makes it work is Alex gets it, Mickey gets it, and I get it. And so everybody is on the same exact page. I could tell Alex, look, do this, and he does. I mean, like, there's no... It's just let it happen. We haven't run into any conflict of interests or anything. Everybody's on the same page. So right now it's a lot of fun. And I'm one of those kind of people, as long as I'm having fun, I'm you know, it's the greatest thing in the world, you know, and that's what I want to do. I want to keep it fun.
Mm-hmm.
So are you guys taking then, you guys have like an email address where your fans can email in and what?
Yes. Yeah, we have that. That's iceandmick@gmail.com.
Now, somebody said on my Twitter that didn't work. Are you sure that works?
Yeah, they used an ampersand, and I followed up with them.
Oh,
so there's no
that?
It's because they might be doing the and sign. It's ICEANDMICK@gmail.com. iceandmick@gmail.com.
Okay, all right, cool. All right, just checking.
We got
sure those things connect up. Yeah.
And we do have a phone number that they can call and leave messages, but we haven't implemented that yet. But we have it because we don't want to give everybody everything at one time. We want to give it to them in pieces.
But that's the same number But that's the same number we sell crack and hookers through. So, you know, they got to make sure they call at the right time.
You know, I had a conversation yesterday, matter of fact, with a manager of another celebrity podcast, and this gal's pretty well known in the sphere that she does stuff in, and we had a sponsorship lined up for her, and her show's not doing too bad. It's relatively new as well, and when we're talking to them, you know, there's this misnomer that they can demand TV prices on podcast, and we had quite the conversation with them about you know, payment rates and that type of stuff, and they were really a little disheartened in the actual, you know, what the base would be on, you know, on the advertising. And I basically talked about really needing to do the volume and proving that you can engage the audience. You know, I think there's a big, you know, someone's coming from TV straight into this, and you know, they're getting, let's say they're getting $25,000 for doing an endorsement on something, and maybe that's just a Facebook or Twitter or some sort of you know, paid endorsement, and then they come into the podcasting space, they're going to be sadly surprised that, you know, we're not going to pay $25,000 for an endorsement. But at the same time, they can probably demand a much higher, you know, base rate for their show just because they have an established fan base.
Well, the trick with podcasts is you got to get your numbers up.
Right.
If you get your numbers up, you can demand it. But look, I've been on TV. I'm on Law and Order. It's the same way. The shows that have low ratings are selling like bullshit. They're selling like, you know, tube socks and shit. And the shows that have the high ratings have the Mercedes-Benz commercials. And the advertisers look at the numbers, and that's how they determine how much they pay for your show. So these people that are from television are set, they must not be smart enough about TV, because it's no different. Your ratings dictate what your ads are worth. It's,
Yeah.
they're stupid. Tell them they're stupid. Tell them call Ice-T. He's on SVU.
And
The
let's not
higher
get
the
twisted.
ratings,
That is
the more
true.
the show
That is true.
That's the
Let's
truth.
not get let's not get it twisted.
The thing about the ads from the ad agencies that come onto a podcast, what you can do is you can lock them in for 8, 9 episodes.
Right.
For that, let's just say small amount of, $5, $6, $7, $8,000. So you lock them in for a while. This way you'll always have some sort of advertisement on your podcast versus trying to get an NBC dollar as a Super Bowl commercial. They're not going to give you $1 million. They'll do it at the Super Bowl, but they're not going to do it on a podcast. It's like I said, if your numbers, if you got 4 or 5 million people, you can start demanding some cash.
That's right.
If you got 30,000, let's be happy that you can get an ad on there. So you have so you can keep rolling and get other ad agencies or replacements to say, damn, that was kind of cool. I like that. So what we're doing is building a brand for the companies such as a Squarespace or either an Audible or NatureBox. They see the value in getting 90,000 to 150,000 people in 3 months. They see a value there because those are people that they don't have.
That's right.
Yeah, and let's not get it twisted too. Like realistically, podcast CPMs are way higher than TV.
True.
If you're doing it right.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
You're doing it right.
There are companies that go in and charge way less for podcast ads, and that's fine. But realistically, the average mid-roll is twice the amount of a CPM for a TV commercial.
Absolutely.
So that's what it comes down to. And realistically, there are podcasters who have TV shows and make more money with their podcasts than they do with their TV shows. There's plenty of them.
Speak on it, man. Church. The thing is, get your numbers up and then call me back, man. That's really what it is. I got something I want to sell. I'll sponsor this show once we get big enough numbers.
We had I went back to the media buyer and basically kind of shared the basically the discussion. And the media buyer was willing to be at $30 or $35 CPM on the buy. And
wow.
and that's good. I'm getting a little feedback. And that's
an insane.
And that's
is that mid-roll or is that a pre-roll and a mid-roll?
That was a mid-roll only, and that was that was a fantastic CPM for a mid-roll only. And
what CPM mean?
Cost per 1,000 downloads.
Cost per 1,000, yeah.
So and honestly, I think when you get to 35, that's a little hazardous.
It is.
That gets to a hazardous level.
It's dangerous because that person has to really deliver. At 35.
And like realistically, the only shows that should be getting those 35 CPMs or those 40 CPMs are tech shows. Entertainment shows, you really got to stick in those high 20s.
Holy cow! Holy cow! You are the first person that agrees with me on that. Oh my God! I can't believe it.
Well, and there
are some tech networks that are getting like $60 CPM, so it can go quite a bit higher too, but it is unusual.
No, but the reason for that is that we're like, for example, the Final Level podcast. We're not going to sell some crazy tech device, that we don't even know how to use. You know what I'm saying? Whereas, a tech show where their whole fan base is incredibly tech savvy, you can sell them crazy software and this and that, where those people have no idea how to reach those people who need it, and coding software and all that jazz, and they'll pay that $40 CPM, and they should. But if you're dealing with other companies, you gotta grow the industry, you gotta make things work, and you gotta put deals that everybody's going to be happy with. That's what everything's about.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, I've been selling podcast advertising for 8 years, done hundreds of deals, and those $40 deals are few and far between. Now, 20, 25, all day long. We can do 20, 25 all day long, but when it comes to 40 or 45, nope, it doesn't happen very often.
Well, I sold $40 tech ads all the time, and really what it comes down to is building up that demand and being able to say no for 9 people out of every one that says yes.
Right.
And when you're sold out in advance, that's the kicker, and that's what's been great for us too. With the Ice-T Final Level podcast, we've been sold out of all of our ads. So we can say no to a lot of people. We don't have to deal with these shit CPMs that people are going to try to get you down for. You know, we don't have to make discounts.
One thing that also I was in the conversation, and this is something that I think the whole podcasting space has to be careful of, is that I'm hearing again and again, especially this right here in this first quarter, is that the media buyers are saying that podcasting is getting more expensive to advertise in. So, okay, so what does that mean? That means the CPMs are coming up. But at the same time, they're getting leery because, you know, all right, someone demands X, and you got to deliver. If you don't deliver the value back to the advertiser, you know, they're gone. And we don't want to lose, you know, some of these companies that have been in the space for a while that's been spending money. So I don't know who's being greedy, to be honest with you. You know, we all love the space and we think the engagement is fantastic, but we know that it's, you know, maybe 3 or 4 times better than, you know, especially when it's host endorsed, maybe 5 times better than an average TV ad. But let's be realistic. It delivers ROI, but it's not that great. It's great. You know, I don't want to get the wrong impression here, but some people just think
it depends. It depends show to show. True. I can't speak for who's being greedy. I have no idea. You know, but I think that we also have to be very cognizant over who's advertising on podcasts.
Right.
You know, is this going to work for Coca-Cola? Probably not. You know, is this going to, because, you know, you can't, like, in the kicker of podcasting is being able to do direct response advertising. Is this going to work for, you know, certain companies that have a really, really specific need and don't have, you know, need to hit really low, you know, have really low ROIs that they've hit and everything? You know, it's like, it basically, you know, we have to be very careful about who we bring in the space, how we bring in the space, how we teach them about podcast advertising, what kind of frequency you need to have success. And that's it, really. And I feel like, you know, we've got really lucky in the space that you have amazing companies like Squarespace and Audible, who are great companies in general, and, you know, have seen the value of this right off the bat. And they're not cheap. These companies are not cheap. You know, they pay people what they're worth, and they treat people incredibly well. I think where you get, you know, some danger in here is you have a company who has a trial run with a certain podcast network or podcast agency, and they get used to paying $10 CPMs, and then when they try to go to quality podcasts, you know, won't go up.
Right.
That's the real kicker.
Yeah, I dropped an advertiser about 1.5 years ago because they got to the point where we just couldn't do business with them, or they nickel dime us to death.
Yeah, and
I mean, you know, from the artist perspective, I've always been the kind of person that anybody who invested money in me, I always wanted to make them money. You know, that's how you stay in business. So if you're going to sponsor a movie, I want that movie to hit.
Yep.
So I think from the podcaster's perspective, you want whoever's sponsoring you to be happy they did it. Then they're gonna be like, man, they're gonna go out telling everybody this is the place to be. We can't have somebody pay us for a sponsorship and then we don't deliver.
Right.
We must deliver. But I can't really deliver on people buying their product. I can only deliver with my listeners.
Yep.
So it's 2 different things. It's like, okay, these are who's sponsoring us. Now let me go out and try to get as many ears on this commercial as possible.
Yep. That's your job, and then hopefully they'll engage from there on because of that. Yep.
Yeah.
Hey guys, wanted to ask you all a question. Do you think that the name podcasts as a term to describe this medium is holding it back at all, or do you think it's clear sailing forward just with this name as a reference?
I think it's too late to change it.
Okay.
You know, I think it's embedded. People understand what they are. And if you don't understand what they are, somebody's real close to you that can teach you really quickly.
Sure.
Like we said, a lot of the people who are listening to mine have never listened to a podcast. But when they do, they might get hooked. And they might start going to other people's. To me, it's like talk radio in a capsule that you can listen to when you want to. And the way radio is going right now, I can't even listen to music anymore. You know, when I'm on television, I'm always watching the History Channel, Discovery Channel. You know, getting information or anything, I delicately use the term intellectual with my podcast. But get anything that's going to say anything other than some bullshit is hard. is hard. So this is, I've had people say, oh, I'm on my way to work, I'm listening to it in the car, or I'm at the beach listening to it, or I'm on the plane listening to it. You know, and that's the beauty of it to me. You can listen to it at when you want to. That's different than radio.
Yep.
I mean, if I were to say what's holding back podcasts right now, I would be saying, honestly, the amount of crap podcasts there are. You know,
like sick business.
You know, how many times have you gone on and, you know, gone on your podcasting app and looked at like, hey, here's the new podcast, or hey, this is what's popular right now, and you have to sift through like 10 of them before you find anything that's even remotely listenable. I feel like people get lazy. And, you know, the kicker right now, too, is even like people are getting into live podcasting, you know, and I've been going out to every single live podcast show to check it out, to see what works.
Yeah.
Radiolab is amazing. I think anyone who goes to a Radiolab show leaves happy. It's an incredible thing. But a lot of them are just the laziest, crappiest cash outs I've seen in a minute, you know, and it's kind of like, you know, how there were certain elements of hip-hop, how Ice bring it every single time when he plays live. But there are cats who see like, oh, I'm getting a check to do this, cool. I'm just going to sit there, do 10 minutes, play the same song 3 times, and peace. And I see that over podcasting too.
To me, Alex, these things are more important to me because I know they stay around forever. You understand? Yeah. So when I go on the radio, I might say something, whatever, and I don't really care because it goes off to oblivion, disappears. At the end of the day, there'll be hopefully 20 hours of this shit.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Of me talking, that'll be important forever. You know, it's like I'm making little albums to me. Mm-hmm. So I don't take these shits for granted. It's like I want everyone to be very, very good so you have chapters and you can go through them. And I hope that a year from now, somebody who's never heard the Ice-T podcast can start on number 1 and just enjoy themselves all the way through to whichever one we're on. That's how important it is to me to be good.
Yep.
I think, too, Alex, is that we have to understand that, you know, if you go back to the roots of this space, you go all the way back to 2004, obviously people were creating content on the internet long before that. But the ability for us to be able to have a distribution system, you know, initially it was just some apps, and then iTunes got in the game July of 2005. You know, for many of us, it was pretty liberating because, you know, we could take it and stick it to the man because no longer were we restricted to having to do a deal with a cable company or a radio station or, you know, have to get down on our knees and beg someone to, you know, to listen to our content. Now we have the ability of building our own brand. So I think what it really did is it liberated people to be able to do that. And with that, you're going to get good, bad, you're going to get mediocre.
Yeah.
And I embrace it all just because we can. And what's going to end up happening is, and what has happened, is that you're going to have some folks that obviously the cream is going to rise to the top. They're going to break out, and then they're going to get pulled into television, or they're going to get pulled into satellite radio. So, you know, they're going to launch.
It's already happening.
Well,
it
has happened.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Sure.
Do podcasts, you know, like when you buy a record on iTunes and it says, if you bought this record, you may like this?
I don't know if iTunes.
They have that, but it's kind of meh. You know, there's really no way, like, and it's been a big issue in podcasting, is being, how do you find good podcasts?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
the AV Club is really the only place that's reviewing them. And, you know, they wrote some really awesome things about us. And, you know, we're completely not their demographic. And, you know, they really kind of embraced it. You know, and realistically, I know Marco Arment is like trying to write this new platform for reviewing podcasts and promoting them and all that jazz. But it's hard. It's hard, and it's going to really take people coming together and people really caring and taking some extra care with this medium.
Well, I think, you know, one of the directions that I'm seeing happen more and more here over the last few years is that the cream, like we've talked about, that rises to the top tends to aggregate in networks, right? So you're starting. I mean, that's been going on for a long time. So a lot of the what would be considered kind of lower quality shows tend to be more free agent types. So they're kind of out there, but they're not getting part of professional networks. And I think the cream is definitely rising, and the better quality shows are coming together and working together to monetize. And I think that is going to solve some of those problems, as you look out in the future, I believe.
But I think networks are basically creating the exact thing that we dislike and why people got into podcasts in general.
Well, I don't
think that
tend to agree with that. I don't tend to agree with that.
Yeah, me neither. Then if it wouldn't be for networks, I wouldn't have a business.
Well, like at the same time, there are good networks and there are bad networks. But
sure. Well, it's the
at
same
the same
with
time,
any business, right? There's good businesses and there's bad businesses. But certainly, people working together around good quality content is the future of this medium.
And if you don't have a name, if you don't have a brand already, Ice has got a brand, and he's got a name.
This is also coming from someone who's literally running a network. I'm running a network, and Ice is the first podcast on here, but it's the Paragon Collective Podcast Network too. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I don't think networks are necessarily a crutch. I don't think that people need networks for good content. I think that they really help in terms of, helping monetize the show, helping structure the show, getting people in the door, and giving them an idea of what podcasting is about. But I don't think that everyone needs one. Like Night Vale doesn't need a network, and they've killed it. Dan Carlin didn't need to be on a network. Mark Maron didn't need to be on a network. I think it's more about good content, and it's more about, having that good content come to the top, and more about how do we find that new content without them having to do 800 episodes. Like, for example, like Norm Macdonald coming in. I think that show was amazing. I love that Norm Macdonald podcast. It was great, but it didn't build fast enough for him, Mm-hmm. And then it got popular pretty much right when he stopped doing it.
And I think too, there's this for many people. There is this, especially if you're building a brand. There's this thought that if they do a show, that they're going to come. But it takes a lot of work.
It's not easy, and it doesn't happen usually overnight.
And I tell people, give it 2 years at least from from building a show standpoint. Now, Ice, you're not going to have that problem. You're going to be able to bring your audience in. It's going to grow fast.
I'm still surprised though, because the thing of it is the joy of this is that, like I say, we're going hard.
Right.
We're going hard, and I know when you go hard, you offend people, but it's working. So that's like, I always say, like, my career has always been like, I make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich every day, and I eat it, and then somebody comes over and goes, "You should sell that." I'm like, really? And it hits, you know what I'm saying? So this is such an organic thing for me to do, to be talking crazy. I've never been on the radio. Mickey is on Sirius X at Sirius satellite at, what is it? Sirius XM, right?
Yeah.
He's got a little radio, business, but just having something that I can go on and every day and talk, and I'm having a blast with it, and I'm just blessed that people are tuning in. But I'm like, I always felt like if I don't offend you right out the bat, like I said at the end of the first podcast, I'm like, if you're still listening, then you're the dumb motherfucker, because I tried to blow you out in the first 2 minutes, And now once I got that fan base and they're saying this is what you want, and we hone that group, it could become very, very powerful. So, I'm just enjoying building the audience.
Yeah.
And what I respect about the podcast is it's worldwide. It's people in Germany, it's people in Australia, it's people in Italy that want to hear Ice-T and know he has a television show. It might not be in their neck of the woods, but they heard about it. And they haven't had a chance to get up and close with Ice. Here's an opportunity for you to hear an Ice-T opinion that you read on his Twitter. You're like, man, he can only do 140 characters. I wonder what else Ice would have said if this had arisen. Now you get that opportunity. Like I said, it's similar to a record. And by having a record, that means
it's more like a concert. It's more like a concert. It's more like a concert. So, I mean, we're in it. And, hopefully we can go ahead and get our numbers up into some huge stratosphere numbers, and we'll take what we can. And as the records come out and You know, we'll be able to do live podcasts or podcasts from touring. The beauty of it also is I could do this from anywhere.
Right.
You know, so I could do it in the studio while I'm making a record. I could do it out on the road. I could do it here. All the people at SVU heard the first podcast, and they were like telling me what to say on the second one about them.
So on your upcoming album, do you release your own, or do you have a label?
Yeah, I'm signed to a label called Sumerian, which is a hardcore rock label. They have groups like Lamb of God, very, very serious rock label, not like Warner Brothers or anything. This is all the hardcore groups, and we just finished the album, and we're trying to have it out by summer because that's when I have my hiatus from Law and Order, and I can tour. By then, this podcast will be full blast. We'll be full blast by then.
I'd love to see how many albums you can sell or how many singles you can sell just from the podcast alone. If you could talk them into releasing it and letting you sell it on the show first, I would just love to see that. How many you could sell just strictly from the podcast. I know that it's
another thing we're doing with this album, we're doing a lot of internet type maneuvers. Like on this album, I'm also gonna I'll use the podcast for this, but you know how a lot of these kids are making videos. We're gonna farm the internet for video directors. So we're gonna do, say there's 14 songs on the album, we'll shoot 4 videos, and the other 10 we're gonna give to video directors.
That's cool.
That's a good idea.
And we'll say, hey, yo, here's a couple grand, here's a song, make a video. Then I'll have a video to every song, and then instead of having a listening party, we'll have a screening of the album.
Nice.
Using all these people. So we're going to try to make a little bit of this video album interactive. You know? So
is there a chance that you guys could do some live shows? Or what's the possibility of that, especially when you're off, your TV show?
I was at Comet Strip Live the other day doing SVU, and the guy begged me to podcast from there. The guy begged me. He says, look, we'll set up a night. You can have a few guys come in, and then in the middle of the show, you guys sit down, and we'll just podcast right out of here with the live audience. Just go.
That's awesome.
So I said, it sounds kind of funny. You know, I got a few good friend comedians to keep he wants to give me a full night.
Well,
and part of it would be the podcast. So there's a lot of opportunities. Of course, I'm going to try to think of ways to take this out of the box and go crazy.
And tell that guy that wants you to do it in his in his business, write me a check.
That's right.
It's all possible. It's
payday time. Yeah.
I mean, he might just say, yo, I'll give you the room for the night, and then we book our own thing and make money. It's all good.
Right.
I mean, my thing is trying to come up with something creative and just catch people off guard.
Yeah, it definitely would be something cool.
Yeah, and I want to take it back to networks for a split second. And I think I came off a little bit too harsh. I think networks can be great. I just think it's about having the right business structure with the artists that are fair and are not old school.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So no, I think that the opportunity is really good for networks to aggregate really cream of the crop programming, and I think that's a huge opportunity. I think for podcasting moving forward.
But these networks can't keep taking 65%. You know what I'm saying? They can't keep taking more money than the artists.
Well, if you look at how I work, Alex, we do a 70-30. But to be honest with you, to stay in business and to stay the infrastructure and keep the business part rolling, unless you're doing 100 million downloads and advertising every month, the margins aren't there yet. If we were dealing with TV numbers, the margins could change. From my perspective, it could get closer to maybe 80%. But
even 70-30 splits are pretty fair. So I got no problem with that. I got problems when you see networks who take 65%.
Some do,
and that's
50.
pretty commonplace.
Yeah, some do 50.
Podcasting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some do 50. You're right. Yeah.
But I also
I've seen some who take 65.
Yeah, my company.
And that's not uncommon.
Yeah, my company.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when you have something that's such a low barrier to entry and the costs aren't that crazy,
right.
I think that's insane. And I think that it turns a lot of people off from podcasting.
Yeah, I think in the early days too, we were all trying to figure it out. And none of us were, entertainment moguls or had media companies. We all tried to figure this out in the beginning, and a lot of us made it up as we went.
Which is fine, and there's no problem with that. I'm not getting on anybody's case,
right,
but
right.
I just think that it's with something like this, you have to put the artist first.
And we
have to
put
the artist first.
Alex, I'm gonna ask you a question. Remember we did the thing with the guy Tompkins? Yeah. Okay. What other podcasters promoting other podcasts got to be smart, because you're dealing with a group of people that already listen to podcasts. I think advertising within the world is easier to get somebody to push that button than someone who's never done it. Am I correct?
Yes.
I mean, I think it kind of depends. Like are you talking about like someone who hasn't been in the world or who's just entering, or are you talking about someone who's just a different demographic than a Paul F. Tompkins?
Yeah, just somebody who already listens to podcasts, to get them to listen to ours. Is that easier, or just someone who's never done it? Are we going? We're pretty much just pulling in podcast virgins, right?
Yeah,
that's great.
It's harder, but at the same time, I feel like that's more fruitful. I agree. I think trying to pull in new people into podcasting is what we all need to be trying to do.
Right.
Got you.
Yeah, and I think you got to have a combination of both. But I noticed that when you have shows that don't have people that subscribe to 10 other podcasts, those people do so much better with advertising. Those aren't people that hear Audible ads on 5 other podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
And that's really important too. So I think it really depends.
Our stats show the average listener subscribes to about 7 to 8 shows. So it's, they're getting a pretty good spread. But again, at the same time, there's a lot of shows that people are subscribing to that don't have advertising in as well. So not all shows really meet the mark to have an advertiser. But, I think if we look at it from an ecosphere...
Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Can I ask you a question? The people that don't have advertising, they're just doing it for fun?
Yeah.
Or they're actually doing it to support some other business that they're actively involved in. I mean, they could be a consultant. They could be offering, books or speeches or something like that. There's a lot of ways that
the podcast in itself is a commercial,
right?
Because
correct.
They're selling something, kind of like reality TV. You're selling something subliminally through.
Yep.
Okay, got it.
But here,
building kind of a reputation and credibility is what you're doing.
But there are some sobering stats, and these have been around pretty steady for a long time. Average show doesn't get to 50% of shows never make it to episode 7, and then you take that to the next level. If they get to show 20 or episode 25, they'll usually continue. But about 75 to 80% of shows never make it to 25. And I largely think it's because, number one, maybe they're not doing it consistent enough. Number two, they had unrealistic expectations. Number three, the content maybe just sucked. And I think number four, they don't make no money. They say, oh man, what am I doing putting all this time in? Because it takes time. I'm not making no money, so I'm going to bounce. And I think that's why you see this high failure rate of shows. But I see shows that are making money from the very beginning or very quickly into their content. They're around for years.
Now, let me ask you another question since I'm on your show. How is this going to be heard? Are we just talking to ourselves, or do people hear this?
No, what we'll do is we'll package this up and we'll shove it out just like you guys do. Put it on iTunes. It'll be on Roku, be on Boxy, Samsung Smart TV, Google TV. It'll be
send us
really
some money?
Everywhere. Well, we don't run no ads in this show.
I'm just playing with you. I'm just playing, that's what I see you. I'm just playing. She's talking about money.
But I tell you what I'll tell you what I will do, Ice, is we'll get you on this. We'll hook you up with this media buyer, and we'll make you some money that way. So,
hey, no, I'm just happy to be here. Like I say, I'm a virgin to the podcast world. I've been well received. I haven't had anybody say anything bad. Like Ice is over here trying to rape our industry. I'm just like you. I'm new, Somebody offered it to me. It turned out to be a lot of fun. And, you know, don't blame me. You have fun with it.
Hey, you know what? I love what you guys do. I heard your guys' interview with Norm, and it's really great that you guys are trying to spread knowledge over how people are monetizing this and how people are building it and everything. And that's stuff that needs to be public information, you know?
Yeah.
So it's really important what you guys are doing.
And we want to make sure everyone's playing on the same playing field, too. I think we got some rogue players out there that are not playing on the same playing field, and we need to rein those folks in. And that way, everyone can rise to the top at the same with the same standard, I guess, for a better word. And we don't need to get into that. But, Ice, thanks for spending some time with us, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. This is cool. This is like my new endeavor, and I'm having a blast with it. You know, thank Alex. He's teaching me the game. You know, maybe one day he'll want to put out an album, and I could teach him that game. But I just want to say, you know, thanks for allowing us into the podcast world. And like I say, if you guys like what you've been getting, then this shit is easy. It's easy as taking a shit. We're going to have a lot better ones coming. A lot of better ones coming, but I'm going to try to make them entertaining. You know, that's the key thing. So I'm getting ideas as we go along.
Well, we'll let you guys know when this is up online. We'll send a link to it, but let's pimp that show. Tell everyone where they can find it, all the Twitter stuff, everything.
Right, and we'll blast your show out when we know you're up. We'll tell everybody to go there. That's how it works.
But
sounds good.
I want folks to go over to icetfinallevel.com. That's where you can find his show, and of course you can find it on iTunes. What's the Twitter, guys?
Twitter is mine is at Final Level, and Mickey at Mick MICKBENZO.
Fantastic. Rob, anything final before we cut these guys loose?
Well, I left my Microsoft job last week, running the Windows Phone podcast area. So I'm off to a new adventure starting on Monday that will be announced at that time. So that's the big news for me. And there's more. What's that?
But Rob, you're not going to tell us and then just cut it out later?
We're live. We're live, so we can't say it.
Yeah,
Rob works for us. He's working for us. He's my tour manager.
So on Monday I start a new job, and at that time the company that I'm going to start working for is going to announce that on Monday. So yeah, it's
all right.
All right, Ice and you guys and Mick and Alex, thanks so much, and we'll cut you guys loose. But hey, best of luck to you on your show. I know it's going to be a hit, and
congrats, Rob.
All right, well, thank you, and hey, guys, I really appreciate you spending the time to come on the show to talk about the space, and welcome to the community of podcasters. So it's exciting to have you guys on board.
Thank Mick Benzo. Thank Mick Benzo. It's all because of him. He's the man. He's the one that did it. It's all on him.
We having fun. We love it. We love it. Thanks for inviting us to your show. And we look forward to doing plenty of more Ice-T, FinalLevel.com podcast.
Take care, guys. Aloha.
Okay.
Hawaii
Bye, guys.
out. See, I was in Hawaii talking already, you know? Iceberg, you there?
Iceberg.
So, Rob, that was fun.
Yeah, definitely. Are we still on?
We're
still live.
Yeah, we're still live. So I was going to give you a few more seconds to talk about the Microsoft departure. So are you guys ready to announce who's taking over the directory, or?
It's being worked on right now here over the next week. So I'm sure that they'll be wanting to put out some news on that at that time. But I think it's going to be a surprise, and that's my gut kind of feeling, and it's going to be really, really good. So I think this transition that I'm going through right now is going to be really interesting, and it's a great step for me, and it's going to be a change for me as well. But in some ways, it's a continuation of what I've been doing for 9 years now. So I'm really sad. I'm a little frustrated that I can't totally say what exactly I'm doing and and all of the news that kind of wraps around all this. But rest assured, it's going to be coming very, very soon, and it's all going to be good. I hope, anyway. I mean, I have my fingers crossed that everything is going to work out well, and I know that the Microsoft folks are dedicated and focused to continuing on and doing the right thing for the podcaster side of the fence, and so that's about all I can say right now. But that's what's happening.
All right, well, folks, this was a pretty good New Media Show. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you've got comments, you can send them to Rob I at rob@newmediashow.com or todd@newmediashow.com. Feel free to do that. You can, of course, follow me on Twitter @Geek News, and it's Rob is at Rob Greenlee. But send your comments on the show, and definitely follow ICE's podcast as well. But any final comments before we cut the stream off, Rob?
Yeah, I think it's really exciting what I'm seeing there on the ICE podcast. I think it may be a glimpse of the next phase of this. He's bringing a lot of I believe new people to listening to this space, and I think it could be the beginning of a crack in this that will go a little bit more mainstream than what we've seen. I mean, even up to this point. So that's why I felt it was really important to have him on the show and have his team here, is because I think what they're doing is great, and I think it's really, really good for the space.
I agree. All right, we're going to cut the show off at this point. Everyone, thanks. We'll see you next time.
All right.
And from
thanks.
Here from Hawaii, everyone take care. Aloha.